guys, it's Ariel
And Jason.
from Fix My Books, and today we are doing part 5, How to Close a CCPC, the Legal Dissolution. So let's get started. So now we are going to, number 1, prepare and file the articles of dissolution. And then we are going to obviously inform our employees, customers, suppliers, and other stakeholders that we are dissolving the company. And last, we are going to make sure that we're going to cancel all the business licenses and permits.
So prepare and file the articles of dissolution. What are articles of dissolution? Well, similar to like articles of incorporation, when you make the company, articles of dissolution are the formal documents filed with the appropriate federal and provincial corporate registry to legally dissolve the corporation. These documents officially terminate the corporation's existence as a legal entity. So remember, when you do open a company, the company itself is a legal entity, so its birthday is via the articles of incorporation, and its date of death is the articles of dissolution.
And you will get a certificate for both. So you have like a certificate of incorporation, you have a certificate of dissolution as well.
Yeah. And required information that you need is corporation's name, obviously, the incorporation number. So this is actually different from the business number. You'll have the incorporation number on your articles of incorporation, date of dissolution, statement confirming that the corporation has settled all the debts and liabilities, so obviously what we talked about last week, and statement confirming the corporation has distributed the remaining assets to its shareholders. Templates and availability. Many federal and provincial corporate registries provide templates, so this is where we've got some examples for you of this. It's best to just download a template if you don't have a lawyer doing this for you. Again, we always recommend using a lawyer because they'll obviously cover all the steps because they will have the processes and procedures in place because they do this regularly. If you cannot afford a lawyer, obviously this is one resource, but make sure that you look on the provincial and federal websites to follow all the procedures necessary. So a copy of the articles of dissolution. This is just the information that you put in so that you get the actual certificate at the end of it. And again,
this is the one from the federal one.
This is the federal one.
And then this is the one from
Ontario.
Ontario.
Sorry, I forgot to mention that. But yeah, there's a provincial one and a federal one.
So it's a one-pager. The second page of this is like the instructions on what to do.
Yeah,
so
it's actually very easy to do this.
And then again, the certificate.
Yeah, so this is the certificate of dissolution, very similar to the certificate of incorporation or articles of incorporation. And it pretty much looks identical, except, obviously the information on it is different, such as it says dissolution.
Okay. So you're supposed to inform your employees, customers, suppliers, and other stakeholders. So what to include in the notification? You need to include, obviously, your corporation's name, business number, the statement of the corporation's intent to dissolve, the effective date of the dissolution, and contact information for any representative who can address any questions. And make sure, again, the timing of the notification, it should be sent well in advance. I think we already touched on this on a previous video. You can't just say, oh, we're dissolving the company tomorrow. You don't have a job. Like, you can't just do that. Make sure you have to notify them well in advance. Usually in the articles of incorporation, there would be bylaws or like specific articles in there saying, you have to let them know at least like 180 days in advance. So check that as well before you do anything.
But if you don't have that, try to search online as to what it would be recommended within your province as to avoid any potential legal suits. Again, we always recommend consulting a lawyer for these kind of things, especially one in your own province that understands your provincial laws.
So, method of notification. So, with employees, provide written notice, ideally through a formal letter or email. Include information about the final pay, severance, and benefits. This is not like a word of mouth kind of thing where you just casually mention it to your employees.
I mean, we're saying this for each one where it's a written notice and or formal letter or email, etc. But make sure that this is written down with dates on it and covering specifically what's going to happen. Because the last thing you want to do is say, oh, I told Fred Blogs that, we're closing the corporation and he will be paid on this day. And then Fred turns around and says, I'm suing you because you never told me. And then he says, you don't have any proof you told me.
Yeah. So just make sure it's, written somewhere. There's some sort of proof that this happened. You did notify them. Same thing with customers. You know how sometimes you get emails saying, oh, like, we're discontinuing service, blah, blah, blah. That's this kind of thing when you tell your customers, like, you're closing shop.
Or say, for example, a customer, like software is quite common with this, especially software where they've gone broke. So the software company, you've paid for a year for a subscription on something, and you're paying monthly, and then they say, oh, we're terminating services because, we're closing up shop, or you've paid for a year in advance and, sorry, but you can't be refunded the rest of your money.
Same thing with suppliers. So make sure you notify them well in advance. So if you owe them any money, you pay them before you close the corporation. I think we already mentioned that in part 3. You have to settle all your financial obligations before you actually close the corporation. But just make sure that you do notify your suppliers and other stakeholders. So if you're asking, like, who are, like, stakeholders if they're not my employees, my customers, or suppliers, these could be people who they're your shareholders, people who have anything to do with the company. You don't want people to think that, you just disappeared out of the blue. Okay.
So, typical licenses and permits to cancel. Business license is issued by municipal or provincial authorities. Can you think of any off the top of your head? So I know BC has ones where they give you a license to operate within your own home. That kind of thing.
And there are other industry-specific permits, like health permits, liquor licenses, if you're operating like a restaurant, that you can cancel.
Professional licenses, so obviously, accountants, lawyers have professional licenses, medical professionals as well. Environmental permits and import-export licenses. I think import-export license is the most common one we deal with, but, that's... Just make sure you close all this stuff off.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be, paying for this or, being sent a letter say, hey, you didn't pay your annual dues or something.
Yeah, and also the license may be, specific to your work, but also related to your company. And if that company is closed, then technically that license is revoked and invalid. So you may want to make sure you close it off.
Okay. So obviously you have to contact the issuing authority for each license to know the cancellation procedure. Each different license would have its own, so this is not like a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. You may have to, show them proof of the corporate dissolution. You don't know. It's not, very simple sometimes. So just make sure you know the process.
Yeah, so just make sure you follow what's on their website, if it's on their website, or call them up and speak to them. I know that's a bit weird, calling people these days, but just make sure you do it so that there aren't any hairy surprises later on. And keep records of these cancellations, so any requests that you've done to cancel it, in an email or whatever, keep records. And also, if you're doing this on your work email, just know that when you cancel your work email with Google Workspace or whatever, those emails are going to be deleted. So what you want to do is pay someone that works in the IT field to back up all of your old emails.
Yeah, or, print to
yeah,
PDF,
literally
like
print these out or save them on your desktop, whatever. But all these sort of things will probably be linked to an email, so you want to make sure that you don't have the issue of, the email disappearing.
Yeah.
And that's it for this one. So we have one more after this, and that will be it on how to close a corporation in Canada.
Yeah. So part 6 would be post-dissolution steps. So this is dissolving the corporation, but this is not the final one. There are some things that you still need to do after the corporation is closed, like retaining records, as we mentioned.
Yeah, with the emails. So we're just going to give you some helpful hints and best practices with that, because we do see people close these things off, and then, the CRA comes knocking, or some other government agency or entity is asking for information.
And they're like, oh, whoops, that was in my work email.
Yeah, when you're actually obligated to keep it. So,
yeah. Okay, so once again, this is Ariel.
And Jason.
From Fix My Books. I hope you guys like this video. Again, this is part 5 out of 6 in our series on how to close a Canadian-controlled private corporation. If you guys have any questions, please comment them down below. Once again, this is Ariel.
And Jason.
Hope you guys have a great day. Bye!